a remote corner of a bamboo forest, a sight unfolds that could unsettle the strongest heart. A panda, usually the emblem of softness and serene innocence, wrestles with an unnatural affliction. Its once pristine white and black fur is marred by a horrid, swollen hive-like wound pulsating with clusters of angry bees. The relentless buzzing a grim soundtrack to this disturbing tableau. This scene is not a fleeting anomaly, but a stark window into a biological nightmare. A bee infestation so severe it blurs the line between natural harmony and grotesque intrusion. The wound itself is a cavern of infection and decay, a macabre sculpture of bee activity and panda tissue entomb lieutenant bees. Those industrious architects of the insect world have taken residence within the panda's flesh, creating a makeshift hive embedded in living skin. Stings have swollen into grotesque nodules, and the scent of rot and honey, a sickly sweet yet sour mix, permeates the air. The panda's movement is labored, each step a reminder of the relentless pain inflicted by this buzzing horde. Scientists observing this phenomenon are both fascinated and horrified, trying to unravel how such an unusual infestation could take place. The answer lies in a convergence of habitat beneath the gentle veneer of the pastoral landscape, where horses graze serenely and sunlight dapples through the leaves. A scene unfolds that chills the marrow and invites a grim fascination. In a quiet corner of a forgotten farm, a magnificent horse stands, once a symbol of strength and beauty, now a grotesque canvas marred by a living nightmare. Its flank is host to a sprawling, pulsing hive, a desolate city of buzzing myriads clinging to muscle and flesh. The hive's cavernous maw, honeycombed and smeared with dark amber secretions, blossoms outward like a wound that refuses to heal, a ravaged ecosystem built atop living tissue. The horse shifts uneasily, skin crawling with the weight of thousands of bee occupants whose presence is as horrifying as it is hypnotic. Bee infestation in equines is a macabre phenomenon, one that exposes the raw intersection between nature's industrious creatures and the vulnerability of animal hosts. These are no simple stings, nor short-term irritations. This is a relentless siege. The process begins innocuously. A single scout bee, or a small swarm, driven by the search for shelter or resources, stumbles upon the warm, porous flesh obscured beneath a neglected wound or a crack in the horse's hide. What follows is a grim colonization, where the insects build a hive structure not in a hollow tree or crevice, but embedded in living, slowly rotting flesh. The bees' waxy secretions mingle dangerously with sweat, blood, and pus, creating a slick, sticky matrix that traps the scent of suffering into the air. Inside this hellish hive, the queen bee reigns over her subjects as they tirelessly drape comb and brood around the wound. The horse's body responds in kind. The immunological battle waging beneath the surface, white blood cells flood in, swelling the area with inflammation, while harmful bacteria and fungi exploit. In the vast, unforgiving wilderness where survival hangs by the thread of each creature's resilience, a disturbing spectacle unfolds. An immense bison, once a symbol of raw strength and endurance, now bears the gruesome scars of nature's cruel symbiosis. Here before us lies a horrifying testament to the merciless cycle of life and decay, a massive, festering wound riddled with a writhing colony of wasps, their dark bodies swarming in and out like sinister stitches of destruction. This isn't merely an injury. It's a living nightmare etched into flesh, where the buzzing hum transforms into an eerie soundtrack of suffering, a macabre orchestra of parasitic dominance that commands your morbid fascination. The wound itself is cavernous, seeping with a putrid mixture of pus and blood, a raw open sore that festers under an unrelenting army of yellow jackets. These wasps have not just invaded, they have colonized in brutal efficiency, constructing an irregular nest embedded deep within the bison's wounds. Their papery hives pulsating with activity, each wasp operates with ruthless purpose, feeding off the bison's wounded tissue, injecting venom that keeps the injury from healing, ensuring their food source remains fresh and alive. It's a grotesque collaboration of pain and survival, a parasite-host relationship writ large in seething flesh and buzzing wings. Wasp infestations of this nature are rare, but deeply consequential. They represent a perfect storm of natural processes, wound exposure, environmental opportunity, and wasp behavior, aligning to twist the bison's misfortune into an ongoing parasitic enterprise. The wasp's venom both numbs and inflames, delaying healing while deterring most predators from approaching. In the shadowy underbrush of the wild, where the dense foliage muffles the sounds of life and death alike, a leopard lies in a silent struggle. Its once sleek golden fur is now marred by grotesque wounds, festering and raw, a tableau of suffering etched on its lithe form. This is no ordinary injury, but a horrific manifestation of snake infestation, a bizarre and unsettling alliance of predator and parasite-ridden flesh and venom. The wound itself is a chaotic mosaic of puncture marks, torn flesh, and patches of necrotic skin, surrounded by a hostile swarm of serpents. These are no mere incidental encounters. This infestation is a sinister parasitism, where snakes, emboldened by the deteriorating condition of their feline host, have made their home within the leopard's flesh. The snakes slither in and out of the open sores, their scales slick with pus and blood, their bodies coiled in silent conquest beneath the leopard's fur. This repugnant spectacle compels us to confront the raw, unfiltered brutality of the natural world, a vivid reminder that survival is not always a tale of strength, but sometimes of insidious decay. The infestation begins with an opportunistic strike, perhaps a venomous bite that fails to kill outright, but triggers a catastrophic infection. In this wounded state, the leopard becomes a veritable ecosystem for snakes, which exploit the breakdown of barriers that normally keep such predators apart. The initial injury invites bacterial proliferation, and soon the necrotizing tissue produces an almost intoxicating cocktail of chemicals attracting a variety of snake species. Some are slender, almost fragile-looking creatures, but armed with venom potent enough to further compromise the host's immune response. Others are thick-bodied, muscular serpents that burrow deep, curling through wounds, embedding themselves within muscle fibers and sinew. These snakes perpetuate a cycle of torment. Their bites inject additional venom and toxins, overwhelming the leopard's diminishing defenses. Their presence prevents wounds from healing, transforming what should be a natural recovery into a festering abyss of rot and infestation. Through their movements, they disrupt blood vessels and nerve endings, turning pain into a chronic, gnawing companion. Insects swarm, drawn by the stench and broken skin, completing the macabre chorus of decay. Scientifically, this infestation is a nightmare, yet an extraordinary display of nature's ruthless complexity. It challenges in the shadowed wilds where nature's fury plays its most grotesque performances, a story unfolds that chills even the hardened heart. Imagine, if you will, a majestic white lion, a rare ghost of the savannah, once the epitome of purity and strength. Now, picture this regal beast caught in the merciless grip of an unnatural torment. A massive wound festering and monstrous, a hive of buzzing horror lodged grotesquely within its flesh. The wound itself seems to throb with a sickening rhythm, a hive carved not by the hand of time, but by a silent, creeping army of bees. This isn't a mere injury, but a plague of buzzing invaders, turning the lion's flesh into a dark beehive prison. This lion, once a symbol of the wild's pristine power, now wears a bumpy, living mask of stingers and sticky honeycomb, the bee's architecture sprawling across its torn skin like warped organic armor. The hive's surface is a sickly mosaic of glistening honey drips and swollen, angry-looking cells, each a tiny chamber teeming with life, an eerie inversion where predator becomes puzzle, suffering woven into every cell. The constant, high-pitched drone fills the air like a sinister lullaby, a reminder that in nature's unforgiving ledger, even the mightiest can become a host to the most repulsive of tenants. Bee infestation on this white lion is more than a casual skirmish with insect life. It's a complex biological chaos, a dark symbiosis of suffering and survival. Bees, in their usual role, are the gentle pollinators of life, the harbingers of blossoms and fruits. But here, they twist into a grotesque swarm exploiting an injured giant. The bees seek refuge, drawn to the warm, raw flesh and exposed blood, turning the open wound into a sanctuary. Inside this living hive, larvae pulse and grow on the lion's flesh, a parasitic nightmare that feeds on the lion's slow decline. This pestilence causes swelling, infection, and a stench of decay trapped beneath the honeyed cells. In the shadowy heart of the savannah, where life teeters between survival and extinction, an unsettling spectacle unfolds, one that blurs the boundaries between the predator and its smallest tormentors. Here lies a mighty lion, the supposed sovereign of his realm, now reduced to a grotesque canvas of nature's cruel intricacies. His proud mane, once a symbol of raw power, is marred by a horrific hive wound, a scabbed and swollen nightmare, pulsating with festering misery. This lion, caught in a paradox of majesty and decay, bears the mark of a sinister occupation, a relentless infestation of bees, nature's tiny soldiers armed with venom and unwavering tenacity. One might wonder how a creature so colossal, so formidable, falls victim to such a minuscule, buzzing horde. The wound, an architectural marvel of rot and sting, is a macabre hive nestled into flesh, honeycomb cells glistening with a sickly sweet secretion that attracts and nourishes its insect inhabitants. Stinging incessantly, the bees exploit the lion's compromised state, the infectious wound inviting an ever-growing swarm. Each bee's barb embeds in the lion's flesh, a piercing reminder that vulnerability in the wild has no discretion. The hive, a living nightmare, thrives amid the lion's agony, as thousands of bees buzz incessantly, their collective buzzing a dreadful hymn to parasitic survival. This isn't just a battle scar. It represents a symbiotic relationship twisted by nature's indifferent cruelty. An animal once revered as a predator now hosting a colony that feeds on its pain. The infestation's biology is disturbing in its efficiency. Bees, typically known for pollination and honey production, have found in this lion an unexpected host that defies their usual patterns. The hive exploits the lion's injuries, festering wounds that mirror the rotting decay of carrion, secreting a complex mixture of sweat, blood plasma, and necrotic tissue. This gruesome stew becomes the nutrient base for the hive's growth. Beneath the honeycomb hexagons lie larvae, thriving in the lion's tissue, a grotesque nursery where life sprouts from death and decay. The lion's immune system wages a futile war. Cells crowd the wound, attempting to isolate the threat. But the hive's relentless presence overwhelms his defenses. In response, the bee's venom seeps deeper, inflaming the injury further, invoking pain and swelling that immobilize the lion's prideful spirit. Bees, with their millennia of evolution, demonstrate unprecedented collaboration. They build with wax secreted from their own bodies, constructing a complex superorganism teeming with queen bees, workers, and drones dedicated to the hive's maintenance. Their stinging, a sacrificial act, often results in their death. Yet each agonizing sting enhances